What's up, everybody? Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast. Happy Christmas week. Phil Perry is in Buffalo. Phil, it was a first half that nobody expected, followed by a second half that you could kind of see coming. But in the overall, the Patriots have been pleaded with to try and be a competitive team against a good team all season long, be a pain in the ass. And they were that against the best team, in my opinion, in the NFL. So what are we left with after this loss to the Buffalo Bills, Phil? Explain to me what the takeaway should be.
To me, the takeaway is you're getting closer to what you want it to be at the end of the season, which is a pain in the ass to play against. Mm-hmm. And they're a pain in the ass for one of the best teams in football. And they came to their place in difficult conditions in front of rowdy fans that I had to fight through after the game. I mean, it's remarkable. These people, they're mutants in the best way possible. The fact that they can endure temperatures like they had today and still have the energy after a 3-hour football game the way they did today. But I think they're getting closer to it. So is that a moral victory, Tom? What I liked maybe the most about the post-game podium stuff was that they aren't looking at it as a moral victory. I think it's verging on moral victory, but I like that they don't see it that way because it tells me they're looking for even more, and they should be.
They should be, but when we look at this game, the Arizona game was bad. The Indianapolis game was bad. The Rams game was bad. They all those games they lost in somewhat similar fashion. But this one wasn't as knee-bucklingly stupid. You had a Marte Mapu mistake that I didn't love, but he knew it right away, and the Patriots didn't really pay for it in that instance. They got off their goal line after that mistake when he had the pick. They had a horrendous fumble by Ramondre Stevenson. They had a horrendous screen pass that never should have been called, but we'll get to that with Stevenson and DeMontre Jacobs and Drake Maye, and you had a bad pick by May. But when I look at this loss, you had 5 penalties. You were outstanding on third down. You didn't get pantsed by the best quarterback in the NFL and the likely MVP. So as a result, I don't feel that the same way I do about the losses to, say, Tennessee or to the Rams or to the Colts. This one does have a whiff of moral victoriousness. Additionally, in the wake, Phil, of last week and the piranhas circling Jerod Mayo. Piranhas don't really circle. They just go right in. The buzzard circling Jerod Mayo and the coaching staff. It was interesting to hear the response of Drake Maye when asked about the response of the team, responding with their response. Here's Drake Maye.
Just trying to block out that noise. I think it's a bunch of conversations about our coaching staff and stuff like that. I think it's some BS, to be quite honest. Coach Mayo, those guys. Coach Mayo's, we got, like I said, we got his back, and he's coached us hard. He wants to win. We all want to win. We're all frustrated. I think we're building something good, building something that feels right here, and I'm proud to be, proud to be a Patriot.
So it was BS, and Drake Maye is proud to be a Patriot. So that's good to hear. I swear, it is good to hear when the third overall pick is playing on a team that seems quite dysfunctional, and there's little to be giddy about. And he, honest to God, is having a great time here. So this was a tour de force vote of confidence from the quarterback. He also got one from Hunter Henry for Jerod Mayo and the coaching staff, Devon Godshaw. And this was the kind of performance they needed. But, Phil, to me, this is a shot glass of competence after a fire hose of incompetence from the Patriots. They still need to close the season with performances that much more resemble this than last week's. Am I wrong to say that?
Oh, well, I'll answer that question with a question you love to hear when we talk about things like must-win games.
Or what?
They need to play more like this, or what, Tom?
Great point.
Or what?
Or what? I think if you play like this, you give DeMarcus Covington a shot at returning. And you give and I do want to plumb into the Alex Van Pelt conversation just a bit, but you gave Alex Van Pelt a better shot at returning. I think wide receivers coach Tyler Hughes remains cooked. But you at least got performances from some of the best players. sound like Chris Berman, my good friend here, running out of air at the end of a sentence. You at least got performances from Duggar, from, well, Stevenson, except for the bad plays that he had, Gibson, Hooper, guys that you signed or brought in. You weren't an embarrassment on the offensive line and non-competitive. And Van Pelt had a good game plan. So you gave yourself a fighting chance to be in it. You had 5 penalties for 34 yards as opposed to 14 for 134. So these signs of competency, I think, help to preserve the future that this whole group, intact almost fully, will be able to go into next year. Do you want that as a fan? Do you want that as a media member? Do you want that as ownership? I don't necessarily know. Phil, you talk to me about what I just talked to you about.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like, I think what you're saying is the coaching staff didn't save their jobs tonight.
Right.
But if they have 2 more performances like this one, maybe they will. And I think that's a fair way of looking at it. Now, Van Pelt, I'm still not sure. You know, like, you scored 21 points on a day where you had 379 total yards. And I know that's not on Van Pelt when Drake Maye, for example, throws an interception into the end zone, in part because maybe there was a little bit of a messy concept run by Austin Hooper and Kendrick Bourne. I know Kendrick Bourne put some blame on himself after the fact for why that ball was picked off, because he felt like he created some of the traffic that could have been avoided. I know it's not Alex Van Pelt's fault that 2 plays into a drive in the second half, Ramondre Stevenson coughs it up and gives away 3 points. That ends up being the game-winning 3 points, you know, essentially, if you want to look at it that way. So, but it's still not smooth.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I know they put it in the end zone at the end, and good for them. There was a lot of red zone plays to run at the end. That was also a point in the game where you really needed as much clock as possible. And I think it took you a full minute and a half or so to get it in from about the 4-yard line.
And just to interject, the level of chaos on some of those plays was astounding.
And that was, I'd be interested to look back on it. I know you said the offensive line wasn't a complete disaster. I think there's a chance it might have been, Tom. It just felt like Drake Maye had a lot of reps tonight where he was under immediate pressure. Now, sometimes that's not on the offensive line. You've only got 5 guys. If they bring 7 and you've got 5, they're going to get a free rusher, and that guy's going to be on Maye immediately. But boy, Demontre Jacobs, not only on the play that ended up being the backwards pass and the fumble and the touchdown, but he got undressed on a couple of pass rush situations that just got Drake Maye walloped, and he got hit hard on multiple occasions tonight. And the offensive line was, I think, one of their worst position groups today.
Sure, but it's always going to be. I guess what I'm just grading on the curve of incompetency when I've seen.
Yeah, so I guess I'm with you. Like, they didn't save their jobs. I think Mayo's coming back either way. The coordinators, if we're talking specifically about them, they didn't save their jobs tonight necessarily. But if you have 2 more competitive games, I don't know. It's hard. Are we grading them on a sliding scale, Tom? Because I think if anybody had gone into this game Friday, Saturday, talking about it, and if we had talked about it on the Patriots Talk podcast and said, you know what? I bet it's a pretty low-scoring game, and they make Josh Allen look mortal. And the Bills will win, but it'll only be like 24-21. Wouldn't we be thinking that the Patriots should be doing a little jig in the locker room after the fact if that was the case?
Yeah, we should, and they should. But I think it's the quality of the mistakes that they made, the avoidable nature of them, and that they were made by 2 of your very best players that take the shine off of what could be a glistening moral victory, and that they've had so many near misses that it's just not fun lipping out on another hole. I'll say this, there were a lot of strategy questions in the post game that were posed, and I went back and forth with Ted Johnson a little bit about this, and I saw there was a tweet from our friend Dakota Randall that said, and you shared it with me and said, are there a lot of strategy mistakes that are being made? Because Dakota had said, Mayo's going to have to answer for some of these decisions. And in watching it myself, I just did not see a lot of mind-numbing coaching decisions made. As we've discussed before, there are coaching decisions made that are 51-49. And I can see the logic behind them, whether it be the use of timeouts or punting when it's 4th and 1 or the onside kick decisions, etc. Some are, when you go for it 4th and 11 from your own 38 in the first quarter, that's stupid. Everyone understands that. But these were close ones. So I thought the Patriots didn't lose because of strategic decisions or necessarily game management stuff, coaching decisions. They lost because the players turned the ball over. Occam's razor. They gave up 13 total points in the plus-minus. 7 that they handed to them on the lateral, 3 on the what would have been a likely field goal they got, and 3 off the Stevenson fumble that turned into a field goal for Buffalo. 13. Boom, zing, zang. I guess the point is, this was not a strategy game. This is a tough one to lay at the feet of the coaches, except for one thing, which I'll discuss in a moment.
Okay. I can't wait to hear what that one is. I like talking about the strategy stuff, and I do find it interesting. And, I try not to be one of these people who, if it doesn't work out in the end, that makes it the wrong decision every time. Like, I try to think about what I felt about that situation and about the moment in the moment, and try to be honest with myself that way and with our audience that way, because it's very easy to look back on all of these things, and if they go wrong, to say, dummies, what were you doing there? And so things like, Tom, the punt with about 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and they're down 2 scores, and it's 4th and 6, and you're close to midfield. To me, that's one where you really should seriously consider going for it. Understanding what you have at quarterback, and understanding that he can turn it into a playground situation at a moment's notice and maybe pick up a scramble for 6 yards, or just the fact that he has been really good. And you mentioned the numbers on third down being really good. They were officially 7 for 12 on third down, and you can add 2 for 2 on fourth down. So 9 for 14 in those critical spots. Like, maybe trust your guy. I know he's only 22, and I know he's playing in Buffalo for the first time, but maybe trust your guy, because likelihood is you're going to run out of time eventually here. The Bills are one of the best offenses in football. The decisions like that, to me, are worth questioning, because I was thinking about it in real time.
And I think that the irony in that is, when you look at it and say, well, I think sometimes these get conflated to, well, that cost them the game. And you're not doing that. But I think when we get to all of these different decisions, it's great to have a conversation about it. But I think some of these wind up being hanging offenses the next day, whether it be for fans or the media. And maybe I should listen to less media. Don't let it. But I think that, for instance, on that occasion, the Patriots punted on 4th and 5 from their own 46 with 8:33 left. Buffalo got the ball at their 9. They moved it out to the 38. So that's a gain of 31 yards. Had Buffalo gained 31 yards from the Patriots' 46, they'd have been at the 7, and they would have sealed the game with a field goal with 4:35 left. Instead, Buffalo punted with 4:35 left. The Patriots got the ball back and then went on an odyssey that ended with a touchdown. But it was the right call. It worked out the correct way. You forced a fumble. You didn't give up points. You forced a punt. You didn't give up points. So that one worked out. So, again, you're talking generally. But here's the criticism that I would have. And this is, again, grading on a curve. I hated the inside the 10 screen pass. I don't care how many times you've completed that friggin' thing. 2nd and 8 at your own 12. And you're going to ask DeMontre Jacobs to cut who? Greg Russo? Who the hell was over there? And he fails to do so. So now it's all gummed up inside your 15-yard line. Seemingly, Ramondre Stevenson was trying to get wider, noticing that Russo was already blocking an area, so he tried to retreat. May didn't get deep enough. So basically, you had your guy in his, 9th start? And the game in the balance at 17-14. Brain fart, throws it backwards, turns into a touchdown. My problem is, why run a screen pass behind Ramondre Jacobs inside your own 12? Save that for the 40-yard line if you want to. Because there's a chance that he's going to screw it up. And he did screw it up. Brian Hoyer and I got into an extremely spirited post-game argument about this. Here's a part of it. I say that they should feel frustrated with the result, encouraged that they finally showed a pulse and an identity. That's how I would feel. And it's interesting, you look at this team right now, and part of the reason they lost, of course, was mistakes by Stevenson, the mistake by May in throwing to the front side of the end zone,
I put that
but
more
also the mistake of Alex Van Pelt. Why are you calling for a screen inside your own 10 at the beginning of the second half? I mean, there's so many more things that can go wrong than can go right. So I don't think, despite the fact, Brian Hoyer, our quarterback specialist, so many things were good about the Patriots' offensive performance. I like the tempo. I like the identity building. I like going for it on fourth down. I still come away from it and go, I can see why Alex Van Pelt is driving him a little crazy down there.
Hoyer, you're frustrated? You upset?
I
You
think
happy?
it's the right to be frustrated. I'm going to disagree with you on that play call, because all you got to do at quarterback is see that the defensive end's there waiting for your running back. Just throw it at his feet and move on to the next play. I think.
Right. So it was. But you're asking a rookie quarterback to make that mistake
in his own. He's not a rookie anymore. Look, he's played enough football.
You
He's not a
could
rookie.
say that, but he's a. You're putting. No, it's his ninth game.
I'd be more frustrated with that. I know they scored at the end, but we were just sitting there watching it, not having an answer for blitz zero there at the end of the game, and getting bailed out by these pass interference calls. I'd be more frustrated about that. This play call to me is it's an easy get the guy going.
That's a low percentage play though.
Well, not really. If
From
the
a slant.
defensive end gets cut.
Well, but things have to happen. You're asking things to happen.
You got to cut him. I mean, this is not the play caller. Cut the defensive end. If he doesn't get cut, throw the ball at the back's feet. It's
Ted, one more run at
So you put it on, but you say Drake Maye should have known. That's a Drake Maye thing. You got to know better.
I'm going to take one more run at it. You're asking something to happen before the play can be successful.
That is how we are instructed to be as professional athletes. I
throw
know
a slant. You
it's
don't
not
have
the
to have
same as
9
going in the
things.
golf simulator and doing those things. But it's literally, it couldn't be easier. It's okay. We're going to cut the defensive end. Number one, that's on the tackle.
You know how many
didn't get him cut.
defensive ends have
Didn't cut him. So
He needs to, but he can't.
Yeah.
And he's not good enough to cut him.
So I will again acknowledge that Brian Hoyer played for 15 years in the league for 9 different teams, and I played 2 years of high school football for the Silver Lake Lakers. He's got much more command of the game than I do. I still think you don't ask players to try and do things that there's a chance they might not fall into place on. And DeMontre Jacobs failed. Then, new driver, Drake Maye, failed to process what was going on and didn't throw it at the ground and instead threw it backwards. So I think that the coach does shoulder responsibility for not having the foresight to say, some shit could happen here. Maybe I don't do this one here. So that's my coaching critique. And that piled up with other AVP coaching critiques throughout the year becomes another one that I look at and say, he's done such a fantastic job, but if you really want to wring as much as you can from Drake Maye in the offense, I wonder if the Patriots are going to look at him as the future. Phil, your turn.
So I agree with you on the play call. I don't love it if that's the read and that's the design. And I don't know if it was a screen
Or a
per
swing.
se, Tom. But when you're cutting like that at tackle, the idea is we're getting the ball out fast, and I'm trying to get your hands down as a defender so that you can't react in such a way that you can maybe somehow get those big long arms. Greg Russo, I think, has got like 36-inch arms or something alien. Get your hands on the football and kill the play. And so I just, anytime you might even be throwing backwards, like they may have run that 20 times in practice, but like you said, because Russo was where he was, in practice, maybe every time it was a forward pass. And Maye, you can see Maye on the replay saying, no, forward, 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 as Buffalo celebrating in the end zone because he just assumed that it was. But it obviously wasn't. And so anytime you could even invite something like that, I just don't like that idea, especially for this team. If it's Hoyer, if it's, watching Brady, and it's the 2014 Patriots with a bunch of dudes that have played a lot of football, like that's one thing. With this team, I just don't love that call. And again, I don't think it was a screen, but it reminded me of something McDaniels used to say. And I don't know if he stole this from Bill or from his dad, but I can remember it very specifically. And he was talking about screens, but he would say, screens are either outhouses or castles. And he's probably cleaning it up for us, probably bleep houses or castles. Like, you either hit them for 25 yards because you blocked it up and it was the right play at the right time, or it's -7. And there's really no in between because there's one guy to throw to. And if it's not there, it can be really ugly. That one wasn't there, and it was about as ugly as it gets.
It's funny, Hoyer, in arguing, said we were talking about driving is an analogy. And he goes, well, look at you. He goes, what if I were to say to you, Tom, don't take 128 home because it's really icy. So you're going to go all the way around and do something totally different because it's icy out. And I said, well, if I'm a new driver, I will. If my dad says it's too icy to be driving on that road, I want you to go another way, I'll say, well, he probably knows better than me because I'm a new driver. May is a new driver. You have to account for that. And I think, too, with Brian, again, love working with him, but he kind of calls me out a little bit because he thinks that we give May way more leeway than he deserves as a professional quarterback. I look at it and say, well, he's playing with a really sketchy offense. He's shown great potential. So I do excuse a lot of his mistakes. Excuse in that I think that down the road, those will be gone. But he wonders why, and so does Michael Hawley, why does May get so much more leeway than Jerod Mayo? I'm going to let you in. Do you want to hear what my answer is? Or do you want to take it?
I would love to. No, I'd love
All right.
to hear your answer.
Phil just wants to get home. I don't blame him either. It's like a long, long ride. My answer is this. Mayo got plenty of leeway for a long time, but it has been kind of chiseled away because he started in January, and we gave him leeway on things that were said at the mic, and then new guy. And whether it was Burn Some Cash or whether it was Jacoby competing with Drake Maye or whether it was, on down the line. And I think we've had much more exposure to Jerod so that the honeymoon has ended. We've returned home, and now we're living with him. And there are aspects of that we are not in love with. And we look at him and say, well, what's the potential that these things improve? I think that May, we are still in a honeymoon period with him. We can plainly see the potential that we're not able to see with Jerod, because when his players swear by him, he's clearly doing something that is not game-related, game-oriented, that has captured and captivated his team. So there's less opportunity for Jerod to show us the mastery and the potential that he's showing. But we see it with May. We don't see it with Mayo at this juncture. And as a result, we can excuse more readily Drake Maye's mistakes. So that's my answer.
To me, yeah. And I would say, for May, the reason why he gets as much leeway as he does is because he does so much damn positive for your team that you should be giving him leeway. It's not just because he's new. You know what the score would have been of this game if he was not playing quarterback and it was somebody else, Jacoby Brissett included? It wouldn't have been competitive. There's throws that he made at the beginning of the game that kept this a game early. I'm talking like the very beginning of the game. And the touchdown pass is obvious, drops it in the bucket to Kayshon Boutte. I mean, he makes Kayshon Boutte look like a competent downfield receiver. Like, he has flashes of explosive playmaking potential. And that's really...
That's a stretch.
Kayshon Boutte. That's not what he is. So that's why you forgive the bad plays, is because if it wasn't for him, they'd all be bad. And so he's the one redeeming factor for your team a lot of days, a lot of Sundays these days. And so that's why, yes, could he have made a better throw on the ball that gets picked, even if Kendrick Bourne, feels like he messed up the route? Yes, he could have. Could he have made a better throw to Kayshon Boutte, speaking of, over the middle of the field where it felt like he just kind of short-armed one and dirted it on a dig that could have gone for a first down and more? Did he have a couple ball security issues, I thought, today, even on just straight handoffs where the football got a little loose on him down in the red zone? Yes. But he also does these things that keep you in the game. And that's why. So we can criticize when he does it poorly, but he's never going to get the criticism that Mayo gets, because we can't point to 17 things that Mayo did in a game to keep it close the way we can with May.
Exactly. Let's talk a little bit finally here about the encouraging aspects of this game. Penalties. Bills had 13 for 78. The Patriots had 5 for 34. Kyle Duggar with a mild return to outstanding play. Third down, you mentioned it, 9 for 14 between third and fourth down overall. And the Buffalo Bills held under 30 points. They call him Spilly Philly. Ladies and gentlemen, he just got coffee or hot chocolate or something all down the front of his coat. Spilly Philly.
Coffee. What are we doing? If people are watching closely on YouTube, you saw me sort of swirling it around. It just spilled all over my hand. And then I just went to take a sip, and now it's all over the front of my jacket. Good thing we're done with TV. I'm just getting in the car and driving home. I don't have to look good. I don't care.
No, we're getting him home quick. So there was a lot of encouraging crap to take out of this game. Again, it's the same stuff. I'm like, oh, yeah, good to see Ramondre Stevenson running like Earl Campbell. Boom, fumble. It's just, Hooper played great. Gibson played real good. There's a lot to be. Well, he was 10 for 28, Gibson. I don't care. I like the guy. But it's funny. There's a lot to take away from this game that's encouraging.
Yeah. So one of the stats that's sticking out to me now is I'm looking at
Mapu played good.
Yeah. Aside from there was just they still just get in their own way. It's not even the turnovers. I thought in the first half, Marte Mapu, nice pick. The defense gets Josh Allen to a 3rd and long, force him into a stupid throw. Nice pick, and then you bring it out to the half-yard line. Like,
turns into an ideal punt.
And they sort of bailed him out by putting together a little bit of a drive after that. What kind of drive did they put together after that?
They got out to about the 50 and then something. Oh, that was the one where they might have been the fake punt drive. There was a fake punt in there, and I haven't even mentioned it.
Yes, it was. That was the fake punt drive. Yep, and then they ended up punting a little bit later. But they had to, after the fake punt, they had to call a timeout because there were guys that were on the field for the punt that weren't getting off the field.
Correct.
Like there was a lot of celebrating going on. They couldn't handle that transition. Dumb. Another 46-yard, another explosive run where the guy barely gets touched going through the line. 46-yard touchdown. Last week it was a 53-yard run. Ends up being a killer play. The lateraling and the aggressiveness at the end of the first half, I guess, if you're gonna be a Bear, be a Grizzly. Let's go back to that phrase. Sure, have at it. But then, how do you square that with punting on 4th and 6 with 8 minutes left in a 2-score game?
They got the ball back. You're right, though.
You know what I mean? I just that was
what's your
that was madness
I was
at the end of the first half. That was madness. That was we're trying to win a playoff game at the end of a game. The lateral play at the end of the first half, Tom. That's not smart football with the lead.
And I said to who the hell was it? At halftime, Ted Johnson. I mentioned I still have PTSD from the 2004 game against Arizona when the Patriots threw a Hail Mary and it got picked off at the end of the half, and Stephen Neal blew his ACL or something like that, trying to make a tackle on the return. And Bill's like, well, we're never doing that again. But yeah.
Can I bring up one stat for you?
Sir, yes,
That is just catching my eye. I'm sorry. 28 first downs, Tom.
Yes.
They had 28 first downs, and I just told you the numbers on 3rd and 4th down conversions. They had 9 of those. Well, at least one of those 3rd and 4th down conversions was a touchdown. And so that doesn't count towards the 28 first downs. What that tells me, though, is they had a massive number of first downs that they were able to pick up on either 1st or 2nd down. So for a team that's not very good on 3rd down, I love the fact that they were able to stay out of 3rd down entirely in a lot of situations in this game. And so I'm trying to square that with, I don't think it was a great game from Alex Van Pelt, but you look at a stat like that one, and I think that is a check mark in his favor. I would say both coordinators, you could look at certain parts of this game and say, good game for DeMarcus Covington. He made Josh Allen. He slowed down this offense. They had 8 straight games with 30 points until today. So good job by them with a depleted group. No Jabril Peppers. Kyle Duggar still playing on one ankle, but looking a little bit better. Alex Van Pelt, did he have a good game? I guess is my question, Tom. Did Alex Van Pelt have a good game today?
He had moments. He certainly had moments. But then you're looking too, as you point that out. I hate the lateral call. I hate the fact that you're down to 0 over and over and over again. The Bills bailed them out with an encroachment penalty down inside the 10-yard line. The play clock was out. They knew they had to snap it. The guy jumped the gun. So that's clock management, and that's the same mechanism that we were seeing going on with Bill here and Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, and to a degree with Bill O'Brien constantly at the end of the play clock. And part of that has to do with wide receivers walking around going, "Where am I supposed to be?" It's just.
They had 2 of those. They had an actual delay of game penalty, and they had to call they had to burn a timeout to prevent another one.
So is that coaching? Is that player stupidity? Is that Drake Maye? Is that Alex Van Pelt? Is that just it's so cold in Buffalo we can't think? So that's when I look at Van Pelt. I love the fact that they showed an identity. Remember this, Phil, we've said it a million times. You're about to get liberated from this entire podcast so we can get you home. But I
After
said
Stockwatch.
a million times, thank you, that the Patriots need to be like the 1993 Patriots, who started 1-11, who had Drew Bledsoe at quarterback, who had Bill Parcells as the head coach. There were some good players on that team, better players than the Patriots have now. Not a ton of them, but a few. This was the first game that made me feel like that team that built momentum at the end of the year. That 1993 team won 4 games at the tail end of the year. They played really smart. They played really tough. They played efficiently. They relied on Bledsoe, well coached. This team at least approached that kind of performance today. They didn't play smart. They still played kind of dumb. But they played with resilience, and they played with a lot of the guts and effort and grit. Again, it's like they grew up under high-tension wires or been chewing on too many lead paint windowsills. They still make some dumb mistakes, but they have directed themselves in the direction that they're supposed to be. But again, this is a shot of competence versus a fire hose of incompetence that we've seen. They need to string more games together. Stock watch, Phil. Who's stock up today?
Let's go to Marcus Covington. You know, I think to put together that kind of plan, especially where, and I don't know if you noticed it watching it on TV, but watching this game, especially early, it looked like Josh Allen was very unsure of where he wanted to go with the football. And he's gotten a lot better than that at that as he's gotten later into his career, making quick decisions, making the right throw. There were a lot of scramble drill plays today for Josh Allen. I know that's part of his game, but I give them credit for what they did, especially in the secondary, because it wasn't like they were getting a ton of immediate pressure on him to create those scramble drill situations. It was pat, read number 1 to read number 2 to read number 3, back to 1. Should I run? Should I just extend a throw? And I give the defensive plan a lot of credit for that. We saw a return of the Longhorn package today, Tom, a little Brendan Schooler in the mix out there. So maybe that gave them a little bit of trouble. But anytime you can keep a team that has scored 90 points in the last 2 games to 24, that's a pretty good job.
And when you look at the 10 longest plays for the Bills, they only had 2 over 20 yards. Patriots had 34, 32, 28, 22. The Patriots had 4 plays over 20 yards. The Bills only had 2, one of which was a 46-yard run. It's an epidemic of long runs. Last week we had a 53-yarder that went for set up a touchdown or whatever it did, but it wasn't pretty. I'm going to go Kyle Duggar, staying on the defensive side of the ball with a stock up for him, because we've ragdolled him a little bit for his performance in the last few weeks, and he really had an outstanding game, I thought, today.
I agree with you there. I made a couple of nice hits, and he was part of that plan for sure that slowed down Josh Allen. I'm going to come back, and I am going to say, because this is specific to Stockwatch, even though I'm sort of unsure as to whether or not I would call Alex Van Pelt's game good for the reasons we mentioned, weird call near your own goal line, couple delay game situations. But I would certainly say that after today, his stock is up. It was better than it was last week, right? So for the purposes of this exercise, is his stock not up? It might have started low, and it might still be low in a lot of people's eyes. But I'm going to say stock up for Alex Van Pelt.
Well, he did a designed run with Drake Maye, turned into a hole.
4. So he had 4 design runs today, Tom. I can't believe we haven't talked about this yet.
I know. I forgot to.
He had 1 that turned into a hold, and that probably should have still been a touchdown. And Drake Maye, I think, acknowledged that after the game. He felt like he should have cut that up inside and scored. My bold prediction for the game would have been correct had that been the case. But he had a 4th down conversion that went for like a 15-yard gain. Sitting there like doing the Kevin Hart meme, like looking at the Patriots sideline. Like you had a lot of 4th and short situations, 3rd and short situations where that kind of play would have helped, guys.
100%.
So, and then 2 traditional quarterback sneaks, one just to get out of the shadow of your own end zone and one to convert for a first down.
I was looking at an email. Were you talking about that outstanding RPO from May where he turned it up on a 3rd down? Around right end?
Yeah, run right in. I think that was that not fourth down late in the game?
Was it a fourth down? I don't know. Whatever it was, I was like, holy crap, that looked smooth. Yeah, that's exactly right. The Kevin Meme heart is exactly right. I'll also mention then I think that Jerod Mayo goes stock up because his team showed up and was not in disarray. I'm also going to go stock down for Jerod Mayo for a very clipped post-game press conference.
So he's doing this.
Don't blame the media for you stepping in it in the post-game and get all clipped and say, I got to watch the film. I get it. You just want to get out of there.
You didn't like those.
Huh?
Yeah, you didn't like those. You didn't like that. I got to watch the film answers.
I mean, I know you just want to get out of there intact, and it's been a challenge to do so, but you got to master it. You got to find some kind of common ground. You don't like the question, five word answer. You must be able to find a question that you like, though, that you can elucidate on. Elucidate.
Boy, there were a lot of questions.
Yeah, well, that's what's going to happen if you go clipped answers. You're going to get more questions. Is that what you're looking for? I mean, telling me. Give me a stock down, Phil.
Stock down, I'm going to go Ramondre Stevenson. I don't give him 100% of the blame on the backward pass, into the end zone. But, boy, it's a bad time to just have one go straight off your chest plate or whatever happened there. And then he had the bad fumble. Second play of the game, you lose the fumble. Antonio Gibson fumbled too, but at least he recovered it. So this is a significant issue for him. I don't know what you do with Stevenson moving forward. It's 7 fumbles, I believe,
leads the league
for the season now. It's just a tough look for a guy who's supposed to be one of your best players.
All right, Patriots play the Los Angeles Chargers next week, which will be a fascinating game as well. They have a good defense, but they're coming all the way out here, and it's Christmas week. You guys know that. I think we'll have a pod Tuesday. I might tape it tomorrow. I got to get in touch with Paul Perillo. I'm going to try and drag old Paulie P in for a Monday pod. Phil's got his show tomorrow. We'll see what happens the rest of the week. We're in flux, okay? Be honest here. We're in flux. Phil, anything else to say?
No, appreciate you. Appreciate everybody watching. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. We love you all. And we'll talk to you again very soon. The grind doesn't stop. The grind does not stop for the Patriots Talk podcast, Tom. We're gonna be back at this thing again very soon.
Yeah, and we do. We really appreciate the number of people who are loyal listeners and the feedback that you give us. We do appreciate it. And the next Pats podcast, too. Numbers have been extremely impressive for both pods all season long as we try and make sense of what's going on with your New England Patriots. Phil, safe home.
Thank you, bud.